All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Today we're going to take a little bit of notes, reviewing for this week and next week. Today we're going to review all things decimals. So we're going to review place value. We're going to review rounding. We're going to review adding. We're going to review subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. So we're going to do a quick review, and then we've got a quick assignment on it. This will kind of be what the next couple of weeks looks like. A review where you take some notes, and then a little assignment on it. So first we're going to start with place value. So we're going to start with some place value information. And I heard somewhere somebody told me if like you get 10,000 subscribers that they start paying you on YouTube. So I'm just saying. Let's check this out. 101. So I'm right around the corner to 10,000. So, I mean, we're close. All right, place values. Our decimal point is written by the word and. So anytime you say the word and, that's going to tell you that that's where the decimal point is. Just like $5.13. Yes, Peyton.
Are we going to be like going over review till like
I don't know, I might have just said that. We'll go back and watch the video and see if I did say that.
No, you said it on decimals. I'm asking
no.
everything.
We're going to change it up. We're going to review everything. Behind the decimal, you have to know the tenths, hundredths, and if you think of dimes and pennies, these are like dimes. These are like pennies. So the tenths are like dimes. The hundredths are like pennies. Why? Because there's 10 dimes in a dollar. And there are 100 pennies in a dollar. Then we also have to know the thousandths. Then we also have to know the thousandths. So you're responsible for knowing 3 places behind the decimal point. 3 places behind the decimal point is your responsibility. We also need to know the ones place, which you learned when you were 2 months old. You might also see the ones place written as the whole number. If it says round to the nearest whole number, it's saying round to the ones place. Then, of course, you need to know the tens, hundreds, and thousands. God bless you. Okay, so this is what we need to know as far as place value. Now, where I see some confusion, what we're not doing correctly a lot of times when we're talking place value is we have trouble rounding. We have trouble rounding. But remember, we got a little ditty about rounding. Little ditty about Jack and Diane. Have you ever heard that song?
No.
2 American kids doing the best they can. All right, so Our little ditty is find your number, look next door, 5 or greater, add one more. The numbers in front stay the same. The numbers behind zero's your name. Sing it, we will round you, round you. All right, so on rounding, let's do a few examples. If we have a number, it says round to the nearest tenths. And they give us the number round to the nearest tenth. Step 1, we find our number. Regan, what number's in the tenth place? The 9. When we look next door, we're looking at the place to the right, the place that is smaller than that. We look next door. Is the number next door 5 or greater? Yes.
Yes.
So we add one more to our underlined place value.
But 1 plus 9 has carry over.
Good. 1 plus 9 is 10, so I'm going to put a 0 there. I have to carry 1.
Plus 9 has 1.
So my number is 19. You might see it written 19.0, 19.00, or 19 if it were a multiple choice item. Let's see if it says something like round to the nearest whole number. It says round to the nearest whole number. As we said, the whole number's the ones place. So even if it had 3,216 and 879 thousandths, doesn't matter how big the number is. And it says round to the nearest whole number. We just find the ones place. Look next door. The number next door is 5 or greater. So we add one more. The numbers in front, let's see, 7. The numbers in front stay the same as long as we don't have to carry. Numbers behind, 0, your name. So while you won't be able to use these notes on the test of STAR, you will be able to use these notes to study for the test of STAR, which might be a handy-dandy thing for you to do. I'm just saying. So that's place value. That's rounding. Let's look at adding and subtracting next.
Yay.
And if you can't, it's not, do you want to? So, yes. Last I checked, I was in charge. And I don't know, those of you watching at home, why this looks crooked, but it does. And those of you watching around the world. Yeah, I hope they do. So, add and subtract.
Can you move your head? Yeah, I will.
When we add and subtract decimals, really only one rule. You line up the decimal points. Line up the decimal points. And then everything's the same. Line up the decimal points and everything's the same. Yes, sir. Certainly. Line up the decimal points and everything's the same. God bless you. how you will more than likely see it written is first you'll probably see it written horizontally, left to right, the horizon. When the pirates were out, they looked on the horizon to see if they saw land. They didn't look this way to see if they saw land. They looked this way to see if they saw land. Because the land wouldn't be up there. Yes, Peyton. No, I'm telling you, you're going to stack them. I'm just telling you right now, this is how it would be written. This is probably how it would be written. And then we line up our decimal points. Too many of you want to put the 3.9 there. No, we line up our decimal points. And then we add, we can put in a 0 as a placeholder if we want. If you don't want, don't do. Then it's just simple adding, which you learned when you were 4 months old.
No, I learned it. Why do you mean?
Because the sign here says add. So 8 plus 0 is 8, 0 plus 9 is 9. Decimal point comes straight down.
40 and 98.
7 plus 3 is 10.
40.
40 and 98 hundredths.
40 and 98 hundredths. 40 and 98 hundredths. Which also means you need to know how to write numbers in standard and expanded form. And word form. And word form. So if we had this number, we would do it the same way. We would write it the same way if we were subtracting. But then just do subtraction instead of adding. So if we wrote this is standard form.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
are we going to do expanded notation?
Yeah, we're going to do that in just 1 second.
Yay.
That's standard form. If I was doing word form of this same number,
You have to write it.
if I'm doing word form of that same number, I read everything in front of the decimal point just like there's nothing behind it. So in front of the decimal point, Antonio, what number do I have in front of the decimal point?
Around 40.
40. I just write, doesn't matter what's in front of the decimal point. If it was 3,287, I would write 3,287. Doesn't matter what's in front of the decimal point. Just ignore everything behind it and then write that number how you would normally say it since you were 8 months old. And then here we've got a word that we write down for decimal point. And then you read everything behind the decimal point, just like it was the only thing there. And Ashley, what number's behind the decimal point? 98. And then the last thing you do if you have numbers behind the decimal point is you write the place value. And Caitlin, what's the last place value? Hundredths. $40 and 98 hundredths. Expanded form, you might see written. Yes, Peyton, you got a question?
What happens if you, when it's 98, what happens if it doesn't matter if you write the dash or not?
It'll be fine. Most of them are going to be multiple choice. If you see it written either way, probably with the dash. Now, Janae.
Can I help with the
Expanded form?
Isn't it with the parentheses and then the number?
Yeah.
Like 800 and
Okay? So you'll see it done two ways for expanded form. So Najane, help me with this one. How would you write it this way?
4,000.
No, what place value is in? The 4 in.
From 10 to 8.
4 tens. Good. So you'd have 4 times 10 plus, do we have any ones?
No.
9
100. No. 100.
tenths. Good. Plus 9 times
10.
1/10
And then
plus
8.
8 times
1.
1. What place is it 8 in?
Yeah.
The 100.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay? So, and if you did the math, 4 times 10 is 40, plus 9 tenths, because 9 times 1/10 is 9 tenths, plus 8 times 1/100th is 100th. You may also see it written where instead of the fractions, they put the equivalent decimals, which are said the same way. So you might see it 4 times 10 plus 9 times 1/10 plus 8 times 1/100th. 8 times 100th. Or even a third way you may see it is 40 plus 9 tenths plus 8 hundredths. So you may see it written all three of those ways. And if you write all this stuff down, you'll actually have something to study. So when I send the video home and your parents check your journal, they'll make sure you have it written down, so then they won't have to have you write it down at home. I'm just saying. Of course, if you want to write it down at home or review it at home, I will post a video of it on the tube of you.
Don't always make this one please.
Now we'll look at multiplying with decimals. Multiply with decimals. So if I have if I need to find the product of 3 and 21/100ths and 8 tenths, the product of 3 and 21/100ths and 8 tenths, I'm going to write it vertically, but I don't line up the decimal points. I'm going to write it vertically, ignoring the numbers behind the decimal point, or not ignoring them, but I'm going to take out the decimal points. So I'm going to rewrite it 321 multiplied by 8. I'm not going to put the decimal points in when I multiply, because it's going to confuse you and probably have you put the decimal point in your product in the incorrect place. I'm just saying, it could happen. I've seen it before. Then I do my multiplication. I have 8. 8 times 2 is 16. That's 6 tens. And 100. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. Now, I go and I count how many numbers are behind the decimal in the problem. 1, 2, 3. There needs to be 3 behind it in the answer. Let's do some estimating to see if my answer is reasonable. Some estimating to see if my answer is reasonable. So I have close to 3. multiplied by something less than 1. So something a little bit more close to 3 by something less than 1. 0.8 is less than 1. So if I'm multiplying by less than 1, should my 3 become greater, equal, or less? Less. What you're going to see if it were multiple choice is you might have 25 and 6800ths, or they might put 256 and 8/10. If you write it down and solve it, ignoring the decimal points, and then count how many numbers behind the decimal point, and it's going to be easy, but you've got to estimate as well. 3 times something less than 1 means my 3 is going to get smaller. 3 times something less than 1 means my product will be smaller than this factor. My product will be smaller than this factor. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. God bless you. We'll talk dividing decimals real quick. You are only responsible for dividing with a whole number as your divisor. You're never going to have a decimal this year. You're never going to have a decimal in your divisor. If you're dividing a problem that has decimals, it's only going to be on your dividend. So now we look at it. When there is a decimal point in your dividend, that decimal point comes straight up. Then I'm really done with the decimal point. I don't need to move decimal points down. I don't have, as I'm dividing and subtracting, there are no other decimal points here. They're not. I promise. And then I need to pay real close attention to my place values. I'm going to have 2 digits in front and 3 digits behind. Now, obviously my first digit's going to be a 0, so I'm not going to put anything there. But if I identify each of the place values, that keeps me from putting something over here and then messing up the place values on my quotient. And let's see, Cora, how many times does 9 go into 13? 1 time. 1 times 9 is 9. Cora, 13 minus 9 is 4. I bring down my next number. I don't need to mess with that decimal point. I'm just dividing 9 into 42 now. Just 9 into 42. Cora, how many times does 9 go into 42? 4 times. And Cora, what is 9 times 4? 36. And Cora, what is 42 subtract 36? 6. Good. Oh, and then I bring down my next number. Cora, how many times does 9 go into 66?
Wait, isn't it 68?
No. 7 times 9 is 63, which I get a 3 and an 8 And 9's going to go into 38. 7, 8 times? No. 4 times. And if I'd have written a problem like you'd see, you wouldn't have a remainder, so let's pretend like we don't. Otherwise, you'd put a 0 here and bring that down. But I wasn't very smart when I created that problem. But for the reason you can put a 0 on the end. Yes, sir.
Or even if you did that, it would.
It's going to keep going forever. Yeah. It'll keep going forever. Because Mr. McMurdo wasn't very smart when he created that problem. He should have thinked a little more. Oh, yeah, you're right. Thought a little more. And when comparing decimals, that jumped right out of my hand. And when comparing or ordering decimals, you'll probably get them written like that. When you compare them or you order them, you write them down, lining up the decimal points. Then you add in your placeholders, and then you just compare them or order them or whatever it asks. Riley?
Couldn't we, since that's just a 0 and it doesn't mean anything?
You cannot leave that off, no.
Oh.
If you leave that off, instead of 0 dimes, and you move that over, you're saying you have 1 dime and 9 pennies, which you don't. Okay? So that's a quick review of all things decimals that I could think of as I was standing there in front of the camera being extremely nervous, tears streaming down my face. If you don't get this all written down, please recall that you can get on the Book of Face, go to my channel, subscribe so I can become a millionaire, and write them down at that time. Show it to your parents, your great Aunt Gertrude, Uncle Umberto, Hector, your nephew that lives in Australia. Good day, mate. Gregory.
I think under the compare order, I think under that you should put least to greatest.
Well,
Or greatest to least.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just showing you the process, how you line up the decimal points, put in your placeholders if you need to. Any other questions?
No, not last year. 2 years ago, when we were doing the star, when we were about to do the star, like it was like a day or 2 days before, we did the star thing, like a parade, and we did STAAR, pass the test and you'll go far.
Cool.
And so in the class we won a pizza party, so everyone passed.
Nice.
This took 2 whole pages.
Boom! Waka waka. Peace out. God bless. Love ya. Do something kind.